Hey everybody, let's go ahead and talk about how to correct the mistakes that we made on the polynomial checkup. This first three problems, you really did have to know what things were. So let's take a look at problem number 1. Notice it's not in standard form. Standard form for this would be negative 4x cubed plus 3x squared plus 8. Since all of the exponents for the variable terms are positive, this is a polynomial. Since there are 3, it is called a trinomial. The lead coefficient is negative 4. And the degree, well, this is 3, 2, 0, so this is a degree of 3. Ladies and gentlemen, this came right off of your card. If x is used as an exponent, this is not a polynomial. Now, I do know that this is a little bit of a trick, but remember that it is a polynomial as long as all of the exponents for variables are positive. In this case, this is 1/2 x plus 3 to the negative 2 power is 1 divided by 3 squared, which is 9. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is a polynomial. Its proper name is a binomial. The lead coefficient is 1/2 and the degree is equal to 1. Now let's talk about sums and differences. Remember that Mrs. Rose likes to use the vertical method, and so when she uses the vertical method on this one, it's the sum of 2a and 9. This says take the opposite of when you're doing combining. So this would be negative 6a, positive 10. 2a, negative 6a is negative 4a, and 9 and 10 is 19. Because this is plus, we're just going to go ahead and combine 4x minus 6y, negative 3x minus 2y. Of course, 4x minus 3x is x. Negative 6y, negative 2y is negative 8y. Now, let's talk about using geometry when we're doing algebra. And in this case, we want to write the perimeter and the area. Some of you lost just a few points on this. Remember, perimeter is 2 times the length plus 2 times the width, which would equal 2 times x plus 4 plus 2, I'm sorry, that should be a W there, times x. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's not finished until you combine like terms. This is 2x plus 8 plus 2x. Final answer would be 4x plus 8. Remember to find the area of rectangle, its length times width. So this would be x plus 4 times x. X times x, of course, is x squared, and x times positive 4 is positive 4x. Now, find the product. Most of you, when you found the product for this one, are using the FOIL method, and using FOIL is fine. First times first, x times x is x squared. Outer, x times 5 is positive 5x. Negative 2 times x is negative 2x, and of course last, making the Charlie Brown, is negative 10. Now if you left it like this, you did not combine like terms, which means you did lose a point. Now what if you didn't want to do this? I do know that there's several of you out there that really prefer the box method, and that's fine by me as well. You can do it in either method. I don't have a problem with it. 2x times x is 2x squared. 7 times x is positive 7x. Negative 3 times 2x is negative 6x. And negative 3 times 7 is negative 21. Combine like terms in the partial product, and you have 2x squared plus x minus 21. Now, when you get to this one, I was kind of hoping that you didn't really have to do any math at all, because what you see is the sum and difference of roots, and so this would be the difference of two perfect squares. Again, with this one, we'll go ahead and use the FOIL method. x times 6x is 6x squared. Outer x times negative 5, sorry, that should go there, is negative 5x. Negative 3 times 6x is negative 18x. And negative 3 times negative 5 is positive 15. Combine like terms, and this would be 6x squared minus 23x, positive 15. Now, for this one, I do prefer to use the box method. I do know there are several people who would rather use distributive property, and that's fine by me as long as we get the same partial products and as long as we get the same solution. So, 2x squared times x is 2x to the third. And then, sorry about this, made a mistake there. This would be negative 3x squared and negative 5x. Positive 6x squared, negative 9x, and negative 15. Combining like terms in the partial product gives you a result of 2x cubed plus 3x squared minus 14x minus 15. To factor, in this case, it's just what are the factors of positive 16 that when added together give you negative 10, but when multiplied together give you positive 16. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is negative 8, negative 2, and so the factoring would be common sense factoring, and there's your final result. Now, this one is a little trickier, so Miss Rose is going to use the tic-tac-toe method. First term, last term, product of those. Second term, positive 5x. What are the factors of negative 24x squared that when multiplied together give you that, but when added together give you this? Well, it would be positive 8x, negative 3x. Greatest common factor of negative 3x and 2x squared is x. Now let's just play tic-tac-toe. X times 2x is 2x squared, times positive 4 gives me positive 8x, and x times negative 3 gives me negative 3x. Then remember, our factors are on the corner. So our final answer is 2x minus 3 times x plus 4. Now, what about this one? Tell me what the roots are. Whoops, made another mistake today. This is what happens when you do videos right after school. Remember that when you become math professors. Do not do videos right after school. So, greatest common factor. Mrs. Rose told you when we did the videos that this was going to be the biggest mistake. The greatest common factor of x squared plus 8x is x. X squared divided by x is x. Positive 8x divided by x is positive 8. Now remember, to find the roots, you set each of the factors equal to 0. Oh, well, Mrs. Rose, this one was easy. There's the first root, and there is the second root. You needed all three of these answers. Now remember this one, I told you, let's go ahead and set it equal to 0. I told you that before we even started the quiz. So you have negative 15x squared minus 5x is equal to 0. Let's remove the greatest common factor. That would be negative 5x, which then, of course, would give you 3x plus 1, because this divided by this is positive 1. Now, for a bonus, I told you could finish these and set these equal to 0. And x, of course, would have been equal to 0 or negative 1/3. Oh, no. For those of you who got this one wrong, I'm really concerned because we had this on the front. This is difference of two perfect squares. And the two perfect squares are x squared and 49. So this becomes the sum and the difference of the roots. That means, of course, that x will equal either negative 7 or positive 7. For this one, 2,000 feet per second to miles per hour. Let's think about what Mrs. Rose had said about making Mama happy and making Daddy happy. Let's make Mama happy first. To convert to 1 mile, there are 5,280 feet in 1 mile. Feet, feet. Mama is now happy. Daddy wants to go to hours though, so there are 60 seconds in 1 minute, and there are 60 minutes in 1 hour. Seconds, factors, minutes, factors. So now what are you left with? You are left with 2,000 times 60 times 60, and that is miles, divided by 5,280, and that's hours. You can finish it from there. Now, converting meters to inches. 2.8 meters. We're going to have that divided by 1. Now, did you know that there are 100 centimeters in 1 meter? And did you know that for every 1 inch, there is 2 54/100 centimeters? Factor, factor. What do you have left in the numerator? 2 8/10 times 100 divided by 2 54/100, and all that's left here is inches. You can do the math from here. Oh, factoring this one. Now, I was a little worried about this one to start with because this is that dreaded grouping one. And I even gave you a hint when we started that what you wanted to do is make this as x cubed minus 3x squared. Make this plus and then put the rest of it with the sign with the 36x into the second grouping. This one, what is the greatest common factor of x cubed minus 3x squared? It's x squared. X cubed divided by x squared is x. Negative 3x squared divided by x squared is negative 3. Now here's the hint, ladies and gentlemen. Think about this. This is probably going to have to be what's here, and it is. What we have in common is the factor of negative 36. This would become x minus 3. Now, you have a greatest common factor that is a binomial. You put that binomial right here, and then you put the resultant difference in the parentheses. Oh, but wait. If you left it here, you probably lost 2 points. Why did you lose points? Miss Rose, that's the difference of perfect squares. And how do you factor the difference of perfect squares? The sum of the roots and the difference of the roots. Very, very good. Now, I left the one bonus off because, of course, that's the graphing, and we're going to be talking about that soon. But I did want to talk about how to set this up. And I want you to think about this. This is called the thrown object formula. And sometimes it's just a dropped object. And so what I said is you want it to land on the ground. And so you put the negative 16t squared, which, by the way, is the effect of gravity in seconds. And the velocity was an initial vertical velocity of 20 feet. And since it started on the ground, that would end as 0. And I had suggested that you start with this formula. If you start with this formula, the greatest factor here would be negative 4t, and that would be 4t minus 5. Set both of these equal to 0. Well, silly Mrs. Rose, of course it starts at 0 seconds, but maybe this one would help us. Add 5 to both sides, and you would get 4t is equal to 5. Divide by 4, divide by 4. The time it will land on the ground again is in 5/4 of a second, and since this is time, we would probably say 1 1/4 seconds, or there are some people who would prefer to say 1 2500 seconds. Hope you have a great night. Toodaloo.